Oil prices rebounded on Tuesday today after plunging by more than 3% in the previous session as the implementation of sanctions on Russian seaborne crude oil eased concerns about oversupply, while the relaxing of China's COVID curbs raised hope on the demand outlook. While the market weighs the impact of sanctions on Russian supply, was also watching a traffic jam of oil tankers off the coast of Turkey on Monday, with Ankara insisting on new proof of insurance for all vessels. The group of 7 nations, plus Australia and the 27 European Union countries, imposed the price cap on Russian crude oil on Monday, that which is transported by ships. The aim is to reduce Moscow's ability to finance its war in Ukraine and preserve stability on the global oil market. The price cap comes on top of an EU embargo on buying seaborne Russian crude oil as a measure aimed mainly at providing third-party countries with an option to still buy it if the transaction is at or below the price cap level that led to crude futures on Monday recording their biggest daily drop in 2 weeks. On Sunday, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies, known as OPEC+, agreed to maintain the current 2 million barrel per day production cut. So a lot of things are happening on the global crude oil markets, and that's why the conversation is happening right here on Business Edge. Now, joining me from Abuja via phone is Desmond Agboifo. He's the Director of Desyton Energy and Energy Experts as well. Desmond, welcome back to Business Edge. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much, Tolulope. Thank you so much.
So this decision by OPEC+, which is to maintain the current production level and, of course, maintain the current cut of 2 million barrels per day, was it a particularly surprising decision or not so surprising, given that it's just basically the same thing that they decided in October that OPEC+ is now maintaining?
Thank you very much. I think it's a bit unprecedented in my impression. I think in October I was also on a session with yourself, and the discussions were just trying to gain traction at the time. But so to your question, I think it's not surprising at all, purely driven by the market considerations and the recognition of the market participants, that's OPEC member countries. We've seen that this is even necessary as the right course of action to be able to stabilize the oil market. And on top of that, we've seen that there's an approach to be proactive, to be preemptive, and also to ensure that participating countries reiterate their readiness to meet up at any time the immediate measures to be able to address market development. So yes, the goal is to support the balance of oil and gas market and its stability when necessary. So it's not surprising at all.
Okay, so now this decision that is to be maintained was one that caused a lot of pushback, particularly from the U.S. OPEC+, which includes Russia, angered the United States and other Western nations when it decided to cut production by 2 million barrels per day, about 2% of the world's demand, and that was from November until the end of 2023. So Washington accused the group and also the world's biggest oil producer, Saudi Arabia, of siding with Russia, despite the war in Ukraine. But OPEC+ argued that it had cut outputs because of weaker economic outlook. Oil prices have declined since October, that announcement in October, due to slower Chinese and global economic growth and higher interest rates. And market speculation has also come in that there could have been a cut, but we've seen that that's not what happened. In terms of the decision that was taken in October, which was reflected into November and now should go into 2023, has it shown itself to be the right one? Desmond, what do you think?
Well, absolutely. I think we need to even put it in context. Currently, the global demand for oil is about 98 million barrels a day, and a 2 million barrel cost is half the fact price from the reality. And that's just about maybe 1% or so. But we must also understand that there are key drivers to this new development. First of all, we see that the weakened economy, just due to the Russian and the Ukraine war, has created, well, a pseudo demand in energy space. And you see, Russia as a country does about 12 million barrels a day, and that's just about 13% of the global output. So the tension around the Russian economy and its drive to keep its oil in the market against the sanction of $60 a barrel marked by the OPEC+, it's a bit unprecedented. And I think it's a plan to ensure that we stay in a position to be very competitive and also keep the demand of oil at par. Just so you're aware, the industry drives its benefits from demand of oil, and there must be that balance. So recently there's been a buzzword in the industry, imbalance of demand and supply, and these are the efforts to which the OPEC Plus has been mandated to drive that goal forward. So yes, I don't think it's really an issue to bother much. The goal is OPEC is trying to stabilize what the global market demands really is.
Okay, so let's sort of bring this conversation home for us. And there's still more conversation and feedback happening around the fact that individual member states of OPEC and OPEC Plus have continued to fail to meet their production quotas, Nigeria and Libya being two of those countries that come readily to mind. In terms of this decision to hold on to the 2 million barrels per day cut, how does it impact a country such as Nigeria? At one time, the continent's largest crude oil producer. Now we've lost that title to Angola. In some instances, Libya might have even overtaken us. But how does this decision from OPEC Plus affect Nigeria?
Well, first of all, I think the cost of the 2 million barrels puts us on a deficit position, partly because, as you were aware, prior to this time, we used to hover around 1.8 million barrels a day, and now we're currently just struggling with just about 1 million barrels. So all in all, we're not easily able to meet up with our target. So we have about just almost 80% or 60% drop in our plant production with the OPEC plant. So to your question, yes, the decision will affect the Nigerian economy because our budget is heavily dependent on the oil price and our gross national output in terms of production. So what that really happens is when we have issues not meeting up our targets and having low production, which is caused by a myriad of factors, the issues would impact inflation. So we see right now inflation is at all-time high right now in the country. We see struggles even our expect value in the marketplace. It's as good as quite very, very low. And we will see very recently in the same industry, companies are trying to even divest from the current space. So these calls for desperate measures, if you will, to be able to help us to come to terms with what should be, that is what we see right now. So to your question again, yes, we see that impact from the economic footprint, from the geopolitical footprint, and even from the economic impact for the Nigerian people.
So the natural question that would follow up to that would then be, how does Nigeria survive this period? How do African producers who continue to struggle to meet their production quota survive this period? These decisions are being made at the highest levels, but because of certain things, geopolitical inclinations, many other situations around, our voices are typically not heard, and some of the context around what's happening internally don't make it to that big table. So how does a Nigeria, how does a Libya survive this period where there's an international global cuts, which also means that in some regard we've seen the price of crude also drop, less money coming in? What are the survival instincts? What are the survival plans that a country like Nigeria should have in an instance like this?
Thank you very much. So for a major player like Nigeria within the African space, I think the bad news is that we just lose our position to a host of other African nations. What really plays out is Nigeria and the African nation will be impacted, obviously, by issues around the decline in production from Nigeria space and also the cost in production. Most African countries have their revenues driving away focus on the oil and gas productions in their countries. So, for example, within the Nigerian context, we see budget being based on $60 a barrel and 1.88 million barrels a day production. And these are not just the reality. So we can see an upshoot of the production and we'll see a downshoot of our national productions today. So what that means is we are going to struggle because the revenue comes out from production at an attractive oil price per market value. So we see that shows that we are going to struggle a bit as we're seeing right now. And I think the discussions with the Minister of Finance just a few months ago, Nigeria spent just about 102% of their revenues just to service debt. And so that's also a red flag. Assuming we keep it to high production levels and keep we can do that, but we can be able to speculate to say we benefit from the high market value of what the oil price right now says. We'll see that boom in the economy. But right now, we see just a drop, and it has reduced the economic activities. We're now shifting towards debt in debt servicing as opposed to driving capital projects that is also aimed on making revenues from oil here in the country. So another strategy that I would think that would work is the Minister of Petroleum has always said in many areas where Nigeria is a gap. enabled country, and gas is a transition fuel.
Yes.
Nigeria has just about 400 TCF of gas. So the gas will be the next frontier to explore and perhaps balance off the trade of where the oil companies are not getting it right. So the oil and gas companies will need to focus more on transition fuel and also look out for how they can be able to stay within the context of oil and gas market prices.
So there are three big things that have happened in the past few days, or really come into effect. So OPEC's decision to maintain the 2 million barrels per day production cut, as well as the European Union's boycott of most Russian oil imports, and then, of course, the price cap that was agreed between the group of 7 countries in Australia and some others. That has also kicked in as of yesterday. But that's particularly going to need big countries like India and China to also participate. So, Desmond, do you think that the price cap and some of the decisions around the Russian oil and Russian oil supply will end up having the desired impacts that the West wants them to have?
Well, I clearly no, because Russia's production is really consumed a lot by China and India. That's just the reality of the day. And if you put the numbers in context very clearly, an economy like Russia that does even 9 million barrels a day average output, and China and India having a demand of over 20 million barrels. So China has 4.7 million barrels a day, and India has about 5 million barrels a day. That's about roughly 20 million barrels. So because the Russian market is one of their focused supplier of oil, they are still going to hover just around a deficit of just about maybe 5 or 15% of their demand that will not make their plans go well. So the key thing is if Russia continues to sell at $60 a barrel. This is, let's take it on the status quo basis. The 20 million barrels market will just spend only 50% of the value that Russia supplies to those countries. So this means that there's a direct need for alternatives, and then that's why the answer is clearly no. The time for countries now to begin to now look back and see how to balance for the demand. Because you see, the China and the Indian economy are one of the biggest in the world in terms of demand and even population sizes and all. So really, it will be a struggle because taking it at $60 a barrel will not sell 9 times, in fact. The Moscow has even made it very clear that they will not sell under the cap, and their analysts and their policymakers are trying to see how that will impact the economy. And on OPEC side, we've seen the response from OPEC, where they said the fact that the price cap is perhaps even confusing and even probably inefficient, because Moscow has been selling to countries like in China for quite a long time, and they have even refused to condemn the war in Ukraine. So there's a bit of an uncertainty in the market, and I think the impact will be a bit less perfect.
Okay. Desmond, just before I let you go very quickly, so there are a number of things that could happen, as we saw with some of the slides and the information there. The next official full meeting of OPEC is for June 2023. The decision in October was that the 2 million production cuts will kick in and will last until 2023. But there are some, like JP Morgan, that said that OPEC Plus could review production in the new year. Just very quickly, what would need to happen for there to be a potential review of this decision by OPEC Plus?
Fantastic. I think I would like to just mention about 2-3 things that can happen potentially. First of all, the market demand for gas. I think the OPEC member countries and then OPEC Plus this time around would need to have clarity on the demand as it were for global players. This is for the production that comes out of OPEC member countries. That's one. Then number 2 is to have supply some level of production plus some quotas should go south. That's what I mean. It's the production cost perhaps a little even lesser, maybe a million barrels or so. Then we expect the oil price to perhaps even go even lesser. And the third part of my thought would be to balance off economic trade and supply. So Russia right now, if we go with an embargo of $60 per barrel cap, and its response is we will see a huge demand from their predominantly key players who buy oil from them. So these are issues that have to be foreseen. And of course, yes, you're right. The JP Morgan team has perhaps even have asked that we could review the prices as the market even dictates.
Okay.
All of the issues that I've just enumerated play well right now. We expect a good time.
All right. Desmond Agboifo, thank you as always for joining me. We'll keep an eye out on this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a good day.
You as well. And there continues to be a lot of uncertainty in global oil markets, as well as a few things that many are keeping their eyes on, particularly China's demand and the lifting or easing of COVID-19 restrictions. But also, we're going to have a few days to see whether this Russian oil price cap actually does what those who've made the decision on it think it will do. And that's it for Business Edge. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can also head to our website, www.newscentral.africa, and download our mobile app as well. Until next time, I'm Tolulope Adeleru-Balogun. Do have a fantastic day.